Illinois faces some big challenges. Today, we're about to hear a truly honest analysis of the problems we face. Equally as important, you'll also hear an in-depth discussion of some practical solutions. This is your radio source for stories, the insight, and the answers you won't hear anywhere else. Not in the media and not coming from Springfield. You're listening to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute. Now, here's your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Ted Dabrowski, Vice President of Policy for the Illinois Policy Institute. And Ted, we talk a lot about state government on this show, but one of the challenges in Illinois in terms of the tax burdens people face, the spending, kind of the growing government, the encroachment on the private sector and the individual, is the layers of government. And there's an interesting piece this week in the Daily Herald, an analysis that was done by our friend Jay Griffin over at the Herald, 45 townships in 6 counties, where essentially the upshot is administrative costs outpace the actual general assistance that township government is providing to their respective township residents. One of the few things that township government does where they've got some space that's not duplicative with local, municipal, county, state services is this general assistance. But it turns out that for every dollar spent on providing assistance, they're spending $2, some cases $3 on overhead.
Yeah, so I think this is the big issue with a lot of what local governments do, is it's really hard to track where the money's going. They ask for a lot of money, but in the end, it's hard to keep up with all of them. And the reason why is because we have so many units of government in Illinois. We have more than any other state in the nation. And so when we can't track where the money goes, when we can't see where the money goes, invariably it's going to end up where it doesn't. In this case, a lot of it's going to salaries and not to the actual helping people. And
once this is brought to the attention of state legislators, of course, all of them do their Captain Renault routine. Oh my gosh, there's gambling going on in the casino. Senator Melinda Bush, it's just wrong what's happening, and that amount of money not getting to the people. We need to do something about that. It's kind of one of those things. Somebody should do something about that. Well, how about you? You're a policymaker in the General Assembly. Maybe you should do something about that. It's certainly not the first time that township government, duplicative levels of government has been discussed. There's been legislation introduced previously to provide more citizen empowerment in deciding the future of township government where they live. And you don't see a lot of support from the people that are crying foul in this story that Griffin did.
No, we have 7,000 units of government. And, Texas and California, which are much larger than we are, have many fewer units of government. And so what it is it's become impossible, really difficult to merge units of government. If the people themselves in Illinois wanted to have some of these units of governments merged, it's harder to do that than to amend the Illinois Constitution. So we've made it a real barrier to try to make our state more efficient.
Well, and it isn't the problem, too, is you have local officials in these posts in township government, and they have a few jobs, and it's a relatively small portion of your property tax bill that goes to finance township government. So you see the services, they've got the senior bus and the seniors like the transport or the general assistance program, and they can point to things they're doing and essentially suggest for a small amount, we do these great services. So why are you targeting us? Go after your state government. Go after your county government. That's where the real money's. Go after your school districts. That's where the real money's spent. Don't come after us. And then everybody plays that 3-card Monte game.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I think I called my wife this morning and I said, how many units of government do we pay taxes to? We counted there's 16 different units of government we pay.
On your property tax bill.
Sorry, my property tax bill.
Right.
And, you just start adding them up. And like you say, some of them are relatively small. But by the time you add them all up, we now have the second highest property taxes. Illinois has the second highest property taxes in the nation.
And when you don't pay attention to it, we saw this at the College of DuPage. Oh, at the community college, that's a small portion of property tax bill. Why pay attention to that? And all of a sudden, when you don't pay attention, you find out the president of your local community colleges is putting a wine cellar at the local community college at your expense, or building a 3-star restaurant at your expense because, hey, it's other people's money. Nobody's paying attention. That tends to lead to excess.
Well, and that's precisely the problem. And maybe that's part of the plan is that there's so many units of government that there's no way people can keep up with what's going on. And none of these units of government coordinate with each other over tax increases. They don't say, hey, we're going to go this time and you increase taxes the next time. No, they sometimes even compete to see who can raise taxes first because you want to get to the taxpayers first.
Right. Everybody wants to protect their little fiefdom and make it grow. A good example of this, too, the Maine Township, this is a Republican, so this is not partisan in nature. In Maine Township, officials distributed, this is the Jake Griffin article in the Daily Herald I referenced, distributed about $300,000 in assistance to needy residents in 2014, but the township spent north of $600,000 on operational costs for its charitable programs like the food pantry and the health care assistance. And Carol Teschke, who's a Republican, and she's the Maine Township supervisor, she was asked about this. $2 spent on overhead for every $1 spent on programmatic matters. And here's what she had to say in terms of explaining this.
People come down on their luck. They are done with all kinds of federal programs, state programs. So we ask for documentation that they do live here.
The township takes in over $1 million in taxes every year for general assistance. Close to $300,000 goes back out in actual assistance, not to mention the food pantry. And about $600,000 of that goes towards administering everything. Why the disparity?
Because I have a very dedicated staff here. My general assistance director has been here since 1981. And over the years, they get their normal 1-2% cost of living increase. So anyone that works for a corporation or a business for 35 years, I'm sure they're making more than the entry level. Also, all of our staff, the youngest has been here 9 years.
So is that the problem, Ted? It's just the staff at the township level is just too dedicated.
Well, I think the bottom line is that this is morphed from a assistance to people who are needy to a jobs program for a lot of local governments.